Today we're going to be looking at a poem from the Love and Relationships cluster. We're going to be looking at Follower by Seamus Heaney. Now this poem is about a speaker idealising his father. The speaker thinks about his childhood when he was growing up on the farm, and the main person in his life at that time was his father. And he admired his strength and he wanted to be just like him. But he felt that somehow he was inherently different. But still, he followed his dad around, trying his best to act like him, to work like him. And then towards the end of the poem, there's a reversal of roles. And now his father is following him around. So Heaney reflects on how over time, the way we perceive our parents changes, and this makes him think about the cycle of life. Let's read it. My father worked with a horse plough. His shoulders glowed like a full sail strung between the shafts and the furrow. The horses strained at his clicking tongue, an expert. He would set the wing and fit the bright steel-pointed sock. The sod rolled over without breaking. At the head rig with a single pluck of reins, the sweating team turned around and back into the land. His eye narrowed and angled at the ground, mapping the furrow exactly. I stumbled in his hobnailed wake, fell sometimes on the polished sod. Sometimes he rode me on his back, dipping and rising to his plod. I wanted to grow up and plough, to close one eye, stiffen my arm. All I ever did was follow in his broad shadow round the farm. I was a nuisance, tripping, falling, yapping, always. But today, it is my father who keeps stumbling behind me and will not go away. There are some parts of this poem where it gets quite technical and they can be a little bit confusing, but that's okay, because I've got you. We're going to go through bit by bit, figure out exactly what's going on, and along the way I'm going to give you some of my favourite juicy quotations. And when I say juicy, I mean quotations that have interesting language devices that you could analyse and give lots of interpretations for, and words that you can zoom into so that if this poem comes up in your exam, you feel confident that you can write a few detailed, long, analytical paragraphs about it. Let's start from the beginning. The poem begins with the speaker describing his father's job on the farm, introducing the reader to agricultural life. He says, my father worked with the horse plough. His shoulders glowed like a full sail strung between the shafts and the furrow. I want you to copy that quotation down and we can analyse it. Let's go deep. There is a possessive pronoun when he says, my father. And that shows how much the speaker loves his father and feels this strong connection with him. He addresses his dad in quite a formal way, father, displaying the respect he has for him. The equipment listed, such as the horse plough, the shafts, the furrow, it implies how hard the father works and the range of his skills. And then there's the simile, his shoulders glowed like a full sail strung, and it emphasizes the speed and the purpose with which his father ploughs. He has control and power over the horses, just like a sail controls a boat's movements against the wind and stops the boat from sinking. The verb globed demonstrates the spherical shape of his father's shoulders, and it highlights his physical strength and his masculinity. But I actually think that symbol of the globe is really interesting. It's indicative of the father being the center of the boy's universe, globe. He thinks the world of him. We can probably look at that sibilance, sail strung. It creates this soft sound which juxtaposes with the father's power and indicates that despite his physical strength, he also has a sensitivity and shares a loving relationship with his son. He then says, the horses strained at his clicking tongue, an expert. He would set the wing and fit the bright steel-pointed sock. So the horses basically they physically respond to his father's clicking of the tongue, displaying the speaker's admiration for him, just like the horses. And the poet uses a short sentence, "an expert." And this blunt, declarative sentence, combined with the caesura, shows that there is no other view possible. He's an expert, and that's that. And the continuous references to his equipment, once again, highlights the strength and the expertise necessary to carry out the work that he does so well. The next bit is quite complicated, so bear with me here. There's lots of technical terminology, but I want you to look at the line that says, "the sod rolled over without breaking." Heaney describes the sod, which is the earth, turning over but not breaking, and that mirrors the father's energy, suggesting how the dad doesn't get tired. He doesn't stop grafting. Also, the child, it's clear that he's watching every detail of his dad's work. He's obviously fascinated, observing him. In the next part, it's not just the father's physical strength that's celebrated. It says his eye narrowed and angled at the ground, mapping the furrow exactly. So when it says his eyes narrow and angle, it highlights the level of focus and precision that his work demands. A furrow is a long, narrow trench made in the ground used for planting. And basically the dad, without using any technology, any high-tech like equipment, he can just map out the requirements with his eye. And the speaker admits how he feels awkward compared to his father's brilliance. He says, "I stumbled in his hobnail's wake, fell sometimes on the polished sod." Copy that quotation down. Let's write some notes on it. The first person I shows the first time when the speaker directly compares himself to his father and reflects on the differences between the two, rather than just glorifying his dad. And the verb stumbled conveys the son's struggle to follow in his father's footsteps. A hobnail is a nail on the sole of the shoe for a grip. And there's a juxtaposition between the son's clumsiness and the dad's stability. And that contrast is further emphasized by the image of the speaker falling in the polished sod, which is the earth that his father has just perfectly plowed. The adjective polished has connotations of beauty and cleanliness, which shows how the speaker romanticizes his father's work. We know that the earth is not polished, it's muddy and it's like dirty, but the boy sees it as polished because his dad did it. It says, "Sometimes he rode me on his back, dipping and rising to his plod." So the father riding the son on his back is almost described like waves, dipping and rising. And the son feels secure, navigating the highs and the lows of life as long as he is in the safety of his father's care. He says, "I wanted to grow up and plow, to close one eye, stiffen my arm." Because he admired his father throughout his childhood, the speaker wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps and learn to plow, hoping to one day emulate his father. He says, "All I ever did was follow in his broad shadow round the farm. I was a nuisance, tripping, falling, yapping always." The level of inadequacy, feeling like he's not good enough, is explicit in this next section. The son feels like he's a failure and just follows his father's broad shadow around the farm. The phrase "to be in someone's shadow" means to be second best or not quite up to that standard. And that line also alludes to the title of the poem, Follower, revealing Heaney's perception of himself tripping, falling, yapping, compared to his successful father. And that triplet emphasizes how annoying his presence must have been to his father, as well as how hopeless he felt trying to copy him during his childhood. And it says, "But today, it is my father who keeps stumbling behind me and will not go away." That conjunction, "but today," shifts the focus to the present day. And in this ending, the roles of the speaker and the father have suddenly and dramatically reversed. The father is now old and frail and is stumbling behind the son, and it's the son who feels frustrated and dismissive of him. I feel like this ending comes so quickly and unexpectedly that it seems to mirror how quickly we age. Old age just creeps up on you. Even the strongest person, it's inevitable. Before you know it, whoa, I'm 30. However, unlike parents who put up with children during the weak stage of their life, children don't always share the same tolerance and patience with their parents. When you're a baby and you're crying and you're not letting anyone sleep, your parents look after you. They will feed you, they will love you, they will look after you. But then when parents get older and they are weaker and they need help, do we offer them that same level of care? So the poet ends with a deep message for people to take away about familial relationships and the treatment of the elderly in society. Now, this poem is written in the form of a dramatic monologue. So one person is speaking, and it's set out in 6 regular quatrains. It has an A, B rhyme scheme as well as half rhyme. So that very controlled structure represents the ordered rhythm of ploughing, as well as how fixed this memory is in the speaker's mind. So that's a bit of analysis for you. We've got some good quotations that you could talk about in your exam. We've looked at language devices and we've looked at some structural devices. But in your exam, there is one more thing you need to do. You also need to mention context. And all that means is you need to talk about something that was going on during the time the poem was written, or tell me a bit about the poet's life. And then link that to the message of this poem. Why did the poet bother to write this poem? What were they trying to make the reader think? Some interesting context points for follower are: Heaney was brought up in a simple, rural family and was the eldest of 9 children. He was born in Northern Ireland and was from a farming community where physical labour was valued. And this meant he had a lot of pressure to conform to the expectations of his environment and upbringing. But he became an English teacher and began to write poetry. He became the professor of poetry at Oxford, and in 1995 he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was also offered the role of Poet Laureate, which is an honour given by the King or the Queen to be the national poet. Heaney turned this down though because of his strong Irish roots and identity. He often wrote about his Irish heritage as well as his family. Now this poem is from a collection called Death of a Naturalist, written in the 60s just before the Irish Troubles. Many of the poems in that anthology focused on childhood memories and growing up. So there you have it, a full analysis of Follower by Seamus Heaney. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a like and don't forget to check out the rest of the videos in this series.